In this episode of the Cole Memo, I welcome Ted Parks back to the podcast. It actually took me a moment to realize, as you'll hear, that Ted has actually been on the show in the past, but I want to keep this monologue at the beginning very short. Just a heads up, we discuss at least two pieces of legislation during this podcast that have both been failed to be called for a vote. I wrote an article on these proposals. I'm also displaying the article on my screen right now. The reason I wanted to just shortly bring this up is not only so that you can read this article and learn more, but because through the second half of this podcast, I reference a bill, House Bill 5903, and I reference it as good legislation, and it is. But because the most recent General Assembly, the 103rd General Assembly, ended, the language from House Bill 5903 had to be reintroduced. So it has been reintroduced as House Bill 64, which I'll display on my screen right now, and that was reintroduced at the start of the 104th General Assembly in Illinois. I wanted to just say that because, if I'm throwing around bill numbers and you look it up and it's not at all what you thought I was referencing, it's because the bill number recently changed. So I'm displaying it on my screen right now. I'll have this linked in the show notes as well as the article I just referenced. Enjoy this amazing episode of the Cole Memo featuring Ted Parks.
That had to.
Oh, hey, yeah, thanks. I got it from
Yes,
Hamilton
sir.
Morris. Big fan of him. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he did a show back in the day called Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, and it was about like basically all drugs, but it was super, super interesting. So he's kind of a folk hero for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, got the opportunity last year to have like the briefest walk and talk lunch with him because we have a mutual connection that I had on the show in the past. And I was trying to get a picture with him, and he is, the closest thing you can. I mean, he's a drug celebrity. Oh, people like me, like flock to him because he's so cool.
Yeah.
And I was wanting to get a picture with him, and he was just getting like surrounded by this crowd. And my friend Sam, who I didn't realize was at this conference, we were in Denver, Colorado, came up to me and he's like, "Hey, Cole, how's it going?" And I was like, "Oh my God, Sam, we've never seen each other in person," because he's from Australia. So it was like kind of crazy to see him in person. And I was like, he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I was waiting to get a picture with Hamilton, but as you can see, he's kind of getting hoarded by all of his fans." And he's like, "Oh, well, if you just hang out, we can all go to lunch together. I'm about to go to lunch with Hamilton." I was like, "Hell yeah." So thank you for giving me an opportunity to tell that story. And I'm gonna flash some graphics for people that are watching the podcast right now. If you're not watching, if you're listening and you're not watching, you can watch it. Just check out the show notes. First of all, I just want to say happy holidays to everybody in Chillinois. We're gonna be talking about Illinois cannabis and all that fun stuff. And I always like to display this just in case anybody's wondering why the show's called the Cole Memo. It's not just because my name's Cole. It's actually a reference to federal cannabis policy. Google it if you want to learn more, or just pause your screen and you can read this little blurb I'm displaying now. Ted, I wanted to give you the chance to introduce yourself to my audience. We've talked a lot over the past, I think, couple of years now, and we haven't had the chance to get on the podcast. So I'm really excited to welcome you on. And yeah, please welcome your or introduce yourself to my audience.
uh, hey guys, brother. My name is Ted Parks. I'm a transporter. I'm an independent cannabis transporter, and I have a small cannabis transport company. It's called Moedas Transport, and I am also chairman of the ITPCA, which is the Third Party Carriers Association, and we are the largest trade organization for the independent cannabis transporters. And yeah, it's been a couple of years since I've known you now. I've been advocating in this space for about that time, and met a lot of people. It's really a close knit group of people, which is really cool, in my opinion. But yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, and you said it's IICTA, right?
It's the ITPCA. So we're the Independent Third Party Carriers Association, and our website is thirdpartycarriers.org.
Thank you. I'll have that in the show notes if that makes it easier for listeners that want to go check out the website. And maybe this is a good time, before we hopped on air, you were like, I'd like to explain like the differences in the organizations, and you even saw just right there, I got a little confused. So maybe we
Oh
could start
yeah,
with that.
yeah, yeah. I did too for a second. Going through the names. I've been a part of a couple of different transporter groups since I started advocating in this space. And just a little bit of background on me.
Yeah.
I am also on the board of another organization. It's called the People's Lobby. Very proud of that. That's one of the proudest accomplishments in my life. I really love the work that they're doing. We're about a 500 member organization, and we advocate for just good things. We're trying to end homelessness. We're trying to help people get into drug programs. We're trying to improve mass transit. So just really, really great things like that. Really, really proud of the work I've done. And that comes from being a community organizer. I was a community organizer for the last 10 years. So that kind of leads into the advocacy work that I was doing for the transporters. So when we got our license, um, it's funny because we got our license and I was really excited. I was at the gym and I remember getting the email and I was like, yes. And then I called up my buddy who's my partner and I told him. And then the next day, a friend of mine who knew mine for the license called me and said that, hey, have you seen this news report? And he sent me the report. And the report was Norberto. He's a friend of mine, and he caucuses with us in our group. He's an independent
I just wanted to
transport. Okay.
I wanted to apologize to you because I just realized you have been on the podcast in the past on episode 90 with
Oh
Norberto.
yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, yeah.
You said
Wish
Norberto, and
that
that
we
was
had.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
um, yeah, wish there had been. I wish there's been some. I can report some progress, but between the time I was last on and now, but there has been some. But yeah, so there was Norberto, and he was being interviewed about not having any business, whatsoever. And he was showing his empty van and saying, "Hey, this, I bought all this equipment, and we don't have any business." So naturally, my heart kind of sank. I mean, we just invested all of this money into this business, and I'm seeing a news report, saying where these guys aren't making any money whatsoever. Okay, so at the bottom of the article, where the news report, the interview was with Norberto, was the lawyer that was handling the transporter's time, Ryan. And at that time, some of the transporters, there's only a few operating transporters. Um, and these are individuals who got the license early. And that's not a knock on them at all. That's
Yeah.
great. And they also have really, really great business sense. So they are operating and they're successful. There's a few. And so um, I called the lawyer, and the lawyer said, "Hey, there's some transporters organizing. Okay, I'm going to put you in contact with them. There's still time to get in the lawsuit because the lawsuit at the time was that transporters were showing up at the farms and showing up different places, and they were seeing people transporting in just like regular vehicles, like PT Cruiser,
Mhm.
a Toyota Corolla." And they're like, whoa, hey, we got two drivers, we spent all this money, and this is happening. Like, why is this happening? So the lawsuit that Ryan was doing for us pro bono was in regards to that for the state. It was saying that, hey, these guys have, there's no enforcement. These guys have spent all this money, they've invested, and this is being allowed to happen. So he put me in contact with Victoria. Victoria was the originally started organizing the transporters. She was like the first one. Okay. And is actually somebody I admire. I admire a lot. She's done a lot in this industry, and uh, she came from um, a very meager upbringing, like myself. I grew up in Chatham. I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment. Everything I have, is from hard work. We had I shared a room with my sister. This was all the way up into I left to college. My parents lived there until they passed. When my mom had a stroke, I moved her in with me in my house when I after that. But they lived there until the end, in that one apartment. So same thing with Victoria. She came from Inglewood, and she's started a cannabis business, and she's been very successful in this space. And now she's moved on and is launched a very successful product. So she was organizing the transporters, and I joined with their group. And due to me having a lot of background in community organizing, I was able to help out. I got us a meeting with Kelly Cassidy right away. Kelly Cassidy was willing to listen to us. She knew kind of about the transporters' plight, and she met with us for an hour. And she said that I always felt that you guys' license was supposed to be for home delivery, is what she said. And I thought that was interesting at the time. We hadn't planned to at the time. This wasn't conceived before I had gone into this space. I wasn't thinking so much about home delivery. I was thinking more about business to business. But it makes sense, in our research there. Like, for example, in Boston, the Boston just gave home delivery to the independent cannabis transporters, and they gave them a 3-year exclusivity. Okay, so as you know, you had the lawyers, Ali, I believe it is,
Yep.
on your show, talking about our current lawsuit. You know, our current, I know currently, it's we don't have any equity in this business, so it makes sense for that to be the next step for us. Okay, because it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag. The MSOs, I won't get into the details of that, but our customers are delivering their product themselves. Okay, so that cat's out of the bag. So it's like, what's the next step? Because we're not going away. There's 150 of us. I've personally have sent out marketing material to all the transporters, telling them about our group, and and we're growing. We're growing. I had people contact me, so we're not going away. So if this is the natural progression of things, then that makes sense. Okay, so I got us that meeting, and that's what she told us. And she did put us in contact with LaShawn Ford, and LaShawn Ford said, "Well, what are you guys are trying to?" He talked to us, and he asked. He said, "What are you guys trying to accomplish?" And we told him that we're just trying to get equity in this business. So all we want to do is monetize our license and work. That's it. That's what we want to do. So we put together a bill, and LaShawn Ford sponsored it, and we went, got it into LRB, and we got it out of LRB. LaShawn Ford did, and we got it onto floor. It's still in committee, but that was a good start for us. Our bill gave us, it was a mandate, okay, which was giving us a percentage of first right of refusal and a percentage of the market, okay. We At the time when that bill, so what we discovered, we were trying to get our bill through, okay, and
Hmm.
we were having meetings with different legislators, and we talked to Speaker Welch, and Speaker Welch had us in contact with people in his office. So we had a Zoom call. We had all of our people on there. We had about 4 or 5 transporters on the call, and we were talking to Speaker Welch's people, and he told us that hey, this is terrible. We're willing to work with you and find a solution. Okay. And then about a week or so later, while we were working on our, on trying to get our bill passed, they call or we in the conversations with them, they said, hey, there's another transporter group out there that is trying to get something done. Are you guys aware of them? And we were like, no. We thought we were talking to everybody, and that was Secure Transport. And they had a lobbyist they're actually a large company. So it wasn't a group, they told us it was a group, but it wasn't a group. It was one large company with the lobbyists. And they were trying to get the bill, a bill passed as well, a transporter bill, which allows them to build what's called the CTC. It's a Consolidated Transport Center, and this is the Amazon model. Okay, so essentially, what's going to happen? Okay, if these get built, is that the product is going to be shipped from the MSOs to the CTC, and then it's going to go from the CTC to the dispensaries. All right. So this model makes sense. Okay. I think it's the natural progression of things. I think it sets us up for home delivery. And but at the time, they said, hey, these guys are out here and they're presenting this model. Mm-hmm. So we had a conversation with them. There wasn't enough time because we were working in veto session, and there wasn't enough time for us to get any type of agreement with, if we had just met them, okay, we had one phone call, and we couldn't get an agreement together in time for the veto session. So what the speaker did was that he pulled the things that we have both agreed with out and put them into the bill SB 1559. And that was a moratorium on new transport licenses or new transport applications, okay, and a moratorium on fees. So that was SB 1559. So we became, the only group to get something over the line in veto session in that year, which was not this past veto session, but the last one. So a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Which is great. It was a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
It showed a lot of us that we,
That's like the only cannabis legislation that has moved since legalization. I think one other bill, maybe one other bill, but
yeah. So in any case, after the new year, Secure Transport called us up, and they scheduled a meeting with us, and they wanted to talk about the CT, pick up where we left off. Mm-hmm. So we met them in a restaurant that was downtown, and we were, a lot of us were there, myself, Norberto, Kina, Joanne, and I believe that's it. So we were down there meeting with them, and they were telling us, and they made us a deal. They said, hey, you know what? We need you guys to be a part of this, because obviously we can't get anything through without the independent cannabis transporters, without everybody being on board with it. They want to see all of us get something together. So what they presented with us before, I should just back up for one quick second. Before we went down to the dinner meeting, I called a meeting, and I had a couple of people that were transporters on a call, and we broke down the documentation that they sent over to us, which was a diagram of the CTC and how it was going to work and what they were offering us. Okay, they were offering us 80% last mile delivery, so that would be all the deliveries on the back end of the CTC coming from the CTC going to the dispensaries. Okay, so those were a lot of short rides, and on that call, the two people I wasn't transporting at the time, but on that call, the two people that were transporting said that this was a bad deal, and said that that we should be getting the first mile, which is true. That's what our lawsuit is targeting, right now. And they said we should be getting the first mile. So I said, okay, all right. So we're going to go in and we're going to try to ask for first mile. So we went into the dinner meeting, and we were offered the 80% of the last mile delivery. So we rejected it, because we wanted the first mile. We said, hey, let's go together, okay, because these are the long haul rides. This is what we were supposed to be doing initially anyway. Okay, let's go together. Let's work together, go to the MSOs and say, hey, what do we need to do in order to get how can we be more efficient for you to get you guys to save some money? What can we do in order to get some of this business? Okay. We were told that was a non-starter. Okay. And that this is the way it is, and, then there's nothing we can do about that. They would fight it and we would lose. So the meeting wasn't fruitful. Okay, we didn't come away with any deal, but after the meeting, when I was walking out, Dan pulled me over to the side and said, hey, this 80% is a really good deal. You should look into it, And so I I went back and we reevaluated it. Okay, myself and some of the others, and we said, hey, you know what? All right, this is a start. Okay, this is a start. Okay, we think this is a pretty good deal. First of all, this model is ingenious. I think that this model is something that really has to happen. Okay, this sets us up for home delivery. We need storage, shut out of certain markets because we're not able to store. That's also a part of our lawsuit. So we need this, okay? And this 80%, what they're coming with us with is a pretty decent deal. It's okay. It's not what we wanted, but it's okay. Um, so at some point between us having that meeting, another meeting was had, and with other transporters, okay? And after that meeting, then we were told we weren't going to get the 80% on the last mile delivery, okay? And that it was going to be, it was zero, okay? We weren't going to get anything, all right? I know that sounds absolutely absurd, okay? But I'm just telling you like it is, okay? I'm not here to really make any friends, or I'm not here to, I'm just telling the truth,
Yep.
okay? Because there's transporters that are working. I mean, there's transporters that aren't working, that are friends of mine. There's transporters with bills that are coming in right now that they can't pay. Okay. They got their van note that's coming in. That's, $600-700 a month. They got their insurance, and then they got green check. So if you're anybody watching this, if you're in the industry, you're watching this show, you know that you got to have a cannabis bank account, and that's $300 a month. At least that's what it is for most people. Okay. So we're already coming from a place where many of us are all of us are minorities. Okay, 90% of us are minorities, and we're lower middle class. Okay, we put up our life savings, we took money out of our retirement. Okay, in order to get in this business on the promise, on the just reading what's the way this is supposed to work. We were supposed to come in and be able to transport this product. This was a license that was able to be monetized. We were
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to use this license. So we get here, everybody spent the money. We spent $40,000 to get our license. That's how much it cost us to get our license, $40,000.
Wow.
Okay. Like I said, okay, that's a lot of money for somebody like me. All right. It's not for other people I know, but for somebody like me, that's a lot of money. All right. So I think that these things need to be said, and as chairman of the ITPCA, as a trade organization for the transporters, that's my job. I can tell you that I'm going to get back. I know I'm going off on a tangent
You're
here,
okay.
but I can tell you that there's great people in this industry that I've met. Okay, I've met some really fantastic people, and I've met some people that were just assholes. Okay, and a lot of I can tell you this too is that because I was personally affected by this product, by cannabis. My best friend was shot and killed. My best friend was killed. He was shot in the head. He was trying to sell weed, and he was shot on the next block over. And when his mom came to tell me that he was dead, I remember she knocked on our door. I answered it, and she told me he was killed. I remember falling to the ground. So this was I spent the night over his house. I grew up with him, and I just was shocked. This is the first time somebody died in my life. We are the people who are the most affected by the drug war. Okay, and the social equity was supposed to help these people, the people who did it right and were able to make it and able to make it to this point. So I've met some great people that I'm friends with. I'm going to say like Scott Redmond. I think that he's a leader in this industry that is just a really great guy, a genuinely good human being. Okay, and honestly, when so being around being around cannabis your whole life, you think that when you get in, you think that this community is cool. Okay. These are people that are into cannabis like me and you know what I mean? And we're part of this community, and hey, these are cool people. Okay. So you give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt that they're on that, and that maybe that's not smart. Maybe that wasn't smart on my behalf. Okay. But I have run into people like that, you know what I mean? Like Scott. Okay. And others, Tom Howard, Tom Howard. These are really great people, really great guys. Okay. But for some people, it's all about business and it's unfair business practices, and it's wanting to get ahead at all costs. Okay. So with that being said, all right. So we were told that it was zero. Okay. I'm not going to mention any names. Okay, but I can only say this is that just the natural, the natural progression of things that we've seen, at least that I've seen, that we've seen in different businesses our whole life, began playing out where backroom deals are made. Okay. I mean, that's the only thing that, myself and some of the others that were there in that original meeting that heard that 80%, okay, have been able to surmise. All right. Because how is this major change happening all of a sudden, So, and I did have an individual, ultimately down the road, okay, tell me that I made a deal with these guys and I'm having them sign. Okay. So I had somebody tell me that. All right. So, I mean, that's great for you. That's great
Unbeknownst
for
to you,
you that
right?
you, yeah. So I'm happy. That's great that you're able to get these deals, and that's great that you're willing to go, go the extra distance and do whatever you got to do in order to get your business going. But I'm going to tell you, that when you screw people, or when you're doing something like that. And so I've been in business my whole life. I was in finance my whole life. I had my own practice. I was a bank manager. I was a bank manager for Bank of America for 15 years. And then I got my own licenses, my Series 6 and 63 and 7, my investment license, and I started my own practice, and I ran a successful practice for 3 years. Okay. And then I bought property, and then I got into that, and I sold my property before COVID, and my wife and I bought this house out here. Okay. And I've got a really, really great position right now. Okay. That I was offered from a friend where I manage, and I work with disabled individuals. So I'm doing, I have a life outside of this. Okay. And I've been in business my whole life, and I can tell you that you may think that you're getting ahead by doing backstabbing somebody and doing this and not looking out for the industry that you're a part of, the section, the part of the cannabis industry that you're in. You may think that you're getting ahead there, but you're not. Okay. It's going to come back and bite you. Okay. But okay, that's what I heard. So we were able to negotiate, and thanks to Senator Lightford, because we had a meeting, okay, right before 2911 was getting ready. That's the current omnibus. I think a lot of people are familiar with that. We had a meeting, and on that meeting, she heard me tell I told everybody in that meeting the same thing I'm telling you right now about what happened in that meeting. And when I brought that up, how we were offered this 1% and now it's this, okay, then I was told by the other side that, hey, we misspoke. Okay. That was quote unquote, we misspoke. Okay. That's what they said in the meeting. Okay. I mean, we heard a few people say it. Okay. We heard everybody say it and agree to it, but somehow, that's what was told, and that's fine. And so the person that was moderating the meeting, said, yeah, that's possible for that to happen. And it is possible. Okay. But it didn't happen like that. Something else, that was the timeline. The way I describe it, that's what happened. Okay. That doesn't sound to me like a miss, like what it's being said is going to be. Okay. So, but anyway, Senator Lightford she's true blue. Okay. So everybody talks bad about politicians and how they're not looking out for us and this and that. Okay. There's a few of them out there that are true blue, and Senator Lightford's one of them. Okay. She is the real deal, and we're lucky to have her. Okay, and the same thing I can say about Crew. Okay, we got Aaron and Kirsten. Okay, they're the real deal. They genuinely are just in the best position. So hats off to JB, for putting them in that position. So I mean, I hope that if he gets ahead and and makes his way up to the White House, that he takes them with him. But so Senator Lightford got wind of the conversation that we had. There were a lot of people on the call. Alita Rita was on that call, and she heard me make the same case I'm making right now. Okay, that it was 80 when we left. All right, and she pushed it up to 40. All right, so we went from rejecting the 80% on the back end, okay, to getting 40. Okay. On the back end. So it's something. Okay. So we were like, okay, so the bill went through with 40. All right. And so now here's the kicker. All right. There's 150 independent cannabis transporters right now. All right. 150. Okay. So in order to satisfy that mandate, that 40% mandate, in order to satisfy that can be done by 4 transporters. 4. Okay. So right now, these guys are getting ready to open up 2. They can open up a third facility. There's no cap on the size. Okay, so we tried to negotiate that at the ITPCA. We sent over. We were trying to negotiate that with our lobbyist. He was unsuccessful. Okay, and working with them, they shut us down. All right, and to put a cap on the facility, we were trying to cap it at 10,000. So we gave that up. Okay, so they have the intellectual property, they have the partnerships with the software, and they have the money. Their social equity somehow they barely meet the independent status. Okay, because they have a bunch of tertiary businesses around cannabis, but none are involving a license. That's fine. They're doing great. Okay. Yep. So they're doing the security and they're doing security cameras, et cetera. So they have a really successful business, and hats off to them for doing that. Okay. Like I said, there's people that are struggling. Okay. There's middle-class people that came from areas like I came from that pull money out of their retirement and they lost it. They lost it. Okay, because they got into this industry, all right, and they got screwed. They got screwed. They don't have. There's no business to be at, and we're treated like redheaded stepchildren out here. Okay, all right. I'll get into that. All right. So yeah. So they've got all the props. So they're getting ready to open up 2 of these. And if we don't open up a third one in a year, we're the only ones that can open one up. If we don't open up a third one in a year, then they can open up a third one. Okay. So I just hope, like I said, I met some really great people in this industry, and I care about them, and I want to see the industry do well. We are supporting 2911. We're not trying to derail 2911. Okay, we're trying to work with Crew and I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cole.
Does that 2911 have the 40% thing in there? I just want to make sure I'm following.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Cool.
Yeah. So we support 2911. 2911 is great for the industry. We were trying to get some minor changes. We work with the Craft Grower Association on some real good changes that would help everyone. Okay, we weren't asking for a mandate. Okay, like in the beginning, with the groups. Okay, there were people that wanted a mandate. All right, our group is not asking for a mandate, and I'm going to actually have to double back here because that's where we started about the groups. Okay, all right. This is another unfortunate. A little bit of an unfortunate aspect of what's happening because we are suffering. Okay, and we're not making any money. All right, the people who are making money, all right, are in a position where they're doing everything they can. The people who are making meager money. Okay, they're making a little bit. They have enough to they're scraping by. All right, they're doing everything they can to protect that. All right, and they know that if other transporters get operational and get out there and start making money too, then that puts them at risk.
Right.
Okay. So back to the groups. All right. Back to the groups. All right. There's us. There's ITPCA, all right, and there's another group that's out there, okay, and I respect very much, okay, the transporter that is in this group, okay. There's two transporters in this group, okay, and this group is the IITCA, all right, and I I hate to say it, I hate to talk about this stuff, all right, but this is hurting everyone. It's hurting us. It's hurting everyone. Okay, we tried to work to have a group where everybody votes, a board, okay, and everybody
I mean, you
contributing
saw it.
like we have right now.
You saw it
Yeah,
at the beginning of this phone call. I try to keep track of all this stuff and I can't even keep track of it. Like it's just muddying up the
yeah,
water.
it is. It's muddying up the water, and I understand wanting to have, because if not trusting, because by putting your trust, okay, in a group, then you're putting your everything that this business that you're holding on to for dear life, you're putting it at risk, okay, by putting your trust in another group. But that's what you have to do, okay. Not every There's risk that you got to take in life, okay. By having your own, by having a group of one or two people, okay, because you want to use just in case you don't agree with what everybody else wants to do, so you can say, oh, my group doesn't, then that's fucked up. That's fucked up, you know. So because now you're hurting everybody because of this, you know. So I mean, I'm just calling it like I see it. All right, it's not legitimate. It's not legitimate. All right, we have a 7-member board. Okay, we have 12 individuals in our group. All right, and these are people that are independent cannabis transporters. We vote. Okay, we do things by committee. We are a legitimate group. Okay, so you can join, you can be a part of that, or you can be a part, or you can sit out there and hurt everyone and not get anything done. All right, so that's the status with the groups, and that's unfortunately where we are. All right, there's one cannabis transporter group, one legitimate transporter group. Okay, and honestly, Victoria was the one who started that. She started the group the people that the people that are in our group, okay, were originally caucus, and she's one of the reasons why we're on where we are today. Okay, I mean she's like I said, she's moved on and she's very successful now with her own product. Check it out. Um, so yeah, so that's the status. That's the status with the groups. I had to just double
No, it's
back on
okay.
that
You said Victoria,
for a second.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got just, one of her products right here.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
You
she
know what?
hooked me
I'm
up with
not even
that.
a big vape guy. I'm not even a big vape guy, but that's a sweet vape. That is
Yeah.
a cool vape. It's smooth, you know, and it's also the shape of it is one where you can where it makes you, it's comfortable. It makes you want to pick it up.
Yeah.
I think this really cool, unique thing,
Yeah.
that's out there. But yeah, just to double back on that, the with the groups. But yeah, so thanks to Senator Lightfoot, she bumped this up. But like I said, that's that could be satisfied by 4 people. So these guys have the intellectual property. They have if they came up with the idea, they have the software agreements. If they're going to open up to, so so like I said, I care about the industry. I hope that I just want it to be fair. Okay. And I thought that, and the things that we were asking for, okay, since none of us are in a position, okay, yeah, we can build one. That's great. Okay. So where do we go? So we're going to go now and say, okay, yeah, we got this questionable license, none of, where you haven't made no money yet at all. Okay. Now we want to build this other thing. Now we want to build this thing that's, this new thing. We need a couple of $1 million for it. Okay. How does that look? That's insane. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. All right. Nobody's going to want to do that. And if you do want to do that, that's not smart. Okay. If you're trying to give us some money for that, I mean, you got money to lose. Okay. So they're gonna get 3, and I think that that's a monopoly. I think one way that we could compete, all right, and this is something that we worked with Scott, okay, who helped come up with this idea, is that we move in with a craft grower and infuser, okay, that's already got the safe built and we can store there. And we even, but in order for that to work, we had an incentive out there for the craft growers and infusers to use us, okay, which was a 50% discount on your annual fees, okay, if you use 50% of the cannabis transporters. All right, so that's pretty huge. So if your fee is like the craft grower fee is 50,000, they're trying to reduce it, okay. And if they reduce it, still, if they reduce it to 20, you know, and I mean, still half of that's 10. That's a lot, you know. So you get a 50% discount on your fees if you use 50% of cannabis transporters. Okay, that's a really nice incentive, you know. So now you've got somebody renting, you know, paying rent to your facility, okay, and you're saving all this money by using them. And like Scott was saying, is that you know, you've got two guys in your facility that are transporting. You know, if they're not transporting, they're going to go do something else. They're going to be trimming. They're going to be doing something else. So it's not like these jobs are going to be lost. Okay. These solutions that we came up with made economical sense. And I think that by not giving us the time of day, you know, and not wanting to put that in there, okay, to make it fair, allowing us to do that and allowing us to compete, that's a bad sign for the industry. It's a bad sign. All right, because why? Why would you not want to do that? It's because you want to, you know, potentially jack up the fees every year on everybody. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's not it. What are the fees are going to be in the first place? You know, you're going to be paying something. I'll tell you one thing is that you're going to be paying something, and it's only going to be one company. You're not going to have any other option but to use this one company. Okay, so we had things in there that would have not hurt their legislation at all. Okay, and it would have helped everybody in this industry, and that we worked with the industry on, and it would have given some equity to the people who have lost their ass so far. Good business people, middle class people who grew up and were affected by this drug war, who still are bearing the scars for this drug war right now. Okay, they rejected adding anything to the bill. Okay, so but like I said, we support it. We're going to try to. I do believe that Kirsten and Aaron wanted to do something, but the bill is really important for the industry, and it's very fragile right now. And
Right. That
if you open it
2911,
up,
there's just so much in it for people that don't know and maybe haven't been paying attention. Like it's not only stuff about transport, but it's stuff about craft growers and well, there was a thing about medical cannabis patients being able to purchase from all dispensaries, but of course that got removed and we don't have to get into that. But that was a very controversial thing, you know, that happened. So I wanted to make sure to give that context if people were wondering like what do you mean, Ted? There's so much in this. It's like it's not just about the transporters. Like this 2911
yes,
has so many things that different parts of the industry want to happen.
yeah, yeah, it's huge, and it's a
And
really great accomplishment for the state. Yeah,
And I just wanted to say really quick before you go on, some of the things that you mentioned, I'll have in the show notes. First of all, episode 90, the last time you were on the podcast. I'll also have the CBS News story about licensed cannabis transporters saying illegal deliveries are happening without consequences. If people want to check that out, I think we talked about that last time you were on the show, actually. And I also would like to play a clip about Governor Pritzker on home delivery, since you mentioned that. But you were headed in another
great.
direction. I hope I didn't cut you off too much.
No, not at all, man. This has been fantastic. Yeah, you're a
Feels nice,
fantastic
huh? To
interviewer,
just
man.
get
I've
it
said
out
that
there.
many times. Yeah. 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 I mean, it's like talking to a therapist, man. I mean, you've got that voice, you know. I mean, you're right there. You're right there, man.
I'm here
It's
for you,
it's
Ted.
you know. No, you've got the podcast voice, my friend. You know, and you've got the interviewing skills. You've got it. We were lucky to have you here, but I'll go on. You know,
Yeah.
uh, um, yeah, I guess, like I said, okay, so that, these things that we were asking for, I think would have benefited the whole industry because it would allow some fair competition right off the bat. But one of our guys, he actually discovered that there may be still a way that we can do this through regulatory through a regulatory change. I don't know. We're going to explore
Like
that. If
rules
not,
making or
I
something?
feel yeah, because there's nothing really saying that we can't do this right now, but it's a kind of a unique thing. BioTrack is not going to let you do it. We had a discussion on this, and the way it would have to go is that if we were to to move in with, and this is getting into the weeds, I won't be long there. The way it would have to go is right because we has to the originating place has to maintain custody until it reaches the final destination right now. So if
Which,
it's
by the
coming
way, I
from,
just want to say, folks, please, again, I've got it noted in the show notes. Check out episode 148 because one of the things that Allie, the lawyer, says is that what you just said wasn't necessarily spelled out in law, and the Illinois Department of Agriculture chose to make it strict.
mm,
In other words, harder for people like yourself. And so I just wanted to
yeah,
underline your point there because if people were wondering, like, apparently they had the
yeah,
flexibility and chose the harder way from what she was saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
That's
mean to cut you off, but I
that's
just
really no, no, not at all. It's really a shame, and I think that a lot of it, comes from, you know, I mean, it's a shame. I know that there's good people. Like I said, I believe, I know that there's good people up there. I feel that we have an advocate in Cruz office that wants to see everybody, get a fair deal. But there's no question that in regards to the legislators that money's involved in some cases. Okay, I mean that's just the way it is. And
it's Illinois, baby.
so if you can, yeah, and that's and unfortunately, what it's the it's it's the national stage. It's just it's
True,
the way we are here in the United States.
true.
I can, if I've got $1 million, I can donate it to somebody's super PAC and say, hey, I need you to write this. I need you to do this for me.
Yeah.
I wish I had it. I wish I can do that. But if you don't have that, then what you have to do is you have to organize. Okay, and then you have to show strength in numbers.
Hmm.
And so we're going to continue to organize. I think that we're on a track to we're finally on a track where we have there's a legitimate place for transporters to come to get advocacy, and that's fantastic. So we're on this track. I've got experience doing this type of work, doing organizing, and we're on the right track right now in growing this, and we're not going to go away. But I do feel that we have some advocacy there in Cruz office. That want to see people a fair shake. But like you said, yeah, I mean that is unfortunate. It's unfortunate the way we ended up. I was saying the one thing I think the direction I was going to go in is that I was saying we're getting treated like redheaded stepchildren out here. Let me just give you an example of that. All right, so the first delivery that I've done, okay, the first time I got a customer, all right, I was so happy about that, and I was like, man, I was like, this is great. It was a referral actually from somebody I consider a friend, and so I called him up and I was like, man, I was like, hey, just, I was like, let me know. I was like, I was so green. I was like, whatever you want to charge me, charge me. I was like, this is what I was like. I just want to get a shake.
And
I was
when
like, I'll
was
do a couple
this?
of you for
I'm
free.
not asking for much
Just
details, but just like, just general timing, because I feel like it probably wasn't the first year, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna say this was probably wow. I'd say within the last year, with right
Wow.
about a year ago. I'm gonna
Wow.
say yeah. So it was about a year ago. And I was really happy about that. Okay, and the dude was really cool, and I really thought that he was like my friend. I was like, hey, I'll do a couple for free. So we did a couple for free, and we enjoyed it. I was out there on the road. I met people. I had some great conversations. and it was just, it was exciting, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so we did two for free, and then my partner was getting a little antsy, about not getting paid, and so I attempted, I tried to negotiate and say, hey, what do what is it? Because I had a general idea what people were. So I gave what I thought was a pretty fair shake. Okay, and it was under what I when I ran my numbers, it was way under. We weren't making any money. Okay, but we were at least staying afloat. We had something coming in. It
Yeah.
wasn't, which is better than nothing.
Right. You were
So
delivering.
yeah, I was delivering. And so they were like, yeah. So he was like, yeah, this is great. This is a great price. All right. So we ended up doing three more. Okay. We did three more. And so now we've got a few thousand out there. Okay. And I'm like, okay, so, hey, I'm wondering when I should ask about getting paid. All right. So because now over a month has passed, and I'm, saying, hey, so I sent an email asking them, hey, can, how, I haven't been paid yet. How do we get paid? Is this, really, really super nice about it. I thought the guy was cool. I love the guy for giving us a shot. So I didn't get a response. I called, so when I sent that email, after I sent that email, I didn't get any more deliveries either. So the week, but I wasn't too concerned about that because it was only a week or so I had gone by. But I was getting at least one a week, and so then I called, and I called the girl that answers the phone when you call, and she hung up on me. And so I thought maybe it was a disconnection, and so I called back, and it went right to voicemail. Okay, so I thought that was a little weird, and so then I called the guy. Okay, the guy, I left him a message. All right, sent him another email, and then still, since I think I ended up calling again. I called again, and when I called again, I got blocked. All right. So because now, you call it, so when you get blocked, I didn't know what it meant, but when the phone was ringing, it rang, and then it said rang like four times, and then it said, oh, this call cannot be completed or something like that, And so I had to Google what that, like, that's weird. Maybe they have a down line. And then it was saying, the Google said, oh, you're blocked. Because I called again, and the same thing happened. So I got blocked. Haven't heard from them. I still haven't heard from them. Okay. I still haven't heard from them.
Wow.
My lawyer sent them an email. They did not respond. So I can continue to try to push for it, or, we just got, that's kind of the way it is out here.
What's
What I mean?
crazy
There's
about
no
this?
respect.
What's
Hmm.
crazy about this is and again, I'm not asking for any more details than you've already shared, but am I correct to understand that this had to have gone through Illinois, the system that we have here in Illinois by a track, and so it's not like you literally have manifests of this
Oh
work
yeah.
you've done that you've not been paid for.
Yeah, and
Wow.
we got to have two drivers. So
Wow.
I paid my guys. As a matter of fact, I paid out. Let's see, five. I paid out 1,500 in fees, and I mean in salary for the guys who went on that, went on those deliveries for me. So, I mean, not to mention the time, the gas, or any of that. What I mean? So it's thousands. What I mean, that we ended up losing. And yeah, I mean, it's ironic because I saw this individual. I didn't see him, but I happened to be on a call with the individual, and the individual was complaining about other people not paying their bills. You know, and I told my partner, I said, this motherfucker was on the call complaining about people not paying their bills, okay, when he never fucking paid us. You know what I mean?
Wow. And you could literally
I
prove
mean,
it.
dude, I would be scared to death to do something like that to any human being for the simple fact, okay, that I would be worried. I'm worried about karma. just coming back and getting you for just being a straight up asshole. You know what I mean? I would never do it. I would never do it. You know what I mean? I can't even imagine considering doing something like that. So that's, and that's why I say, there's
That's
people like that
insane.
in out here. There's people like that in the industry, and then you got the other side of the spectrum, which is what I kind of hoped and what I kind of expected, people to be like in this industry when I've met people like Tom Howard and Scott Redmond, so so there's both ends of the poles,
Right.
so I don't know how much time we got, but I don't know if you want to get into this hemp.
Oh
We
yeah,
didn't
I'd
get a
love
chance to talk
to.
about that yet.
I can be mindful of time if you got to get off, if you got to get off at any point, but I just wanted to say you've said that a couple of times and I really resonate with that point that you just made, which is like
Mhm.
you get into this thinking everybody's on the same page, and
Yep.
apparently we're not. I think hemp is actually a good
Yeah.
example of that.
Yeah. We were. I see, and I honestly, and I'm just When I
Before we
remember
get into
seeing your
hemp, do you
for
mind? I
sure.
was just gonna, just say for the record before we close out the whole transport topic, right? Um,
Hmm.
First of all, I just want to play a very short clip because I think it's short of Governor Pritzker. I'll try to put the captions on as well so that people can see what is being said if you can't hear it. Here we go.
Questions from members of the media.
Hi, Governor.
Go ahead. Because you have an on-topic question.
I do have an on-topic question. First of all, I know that there are, of course, a lot of folks who are looking at further changes to the industry. Can you tell us what your thoughts are on the notion of delivering marijuana to folks? The delivery licenses.
I think we've got to look into, there are other locations across the country where this has become, legally allowed, and it's something that I think we should just examine what the impact has been there. But at first blush, and without the data in front of me, I think that as long as it is regulated, as long as we make sure that the person who's ordering it gets it and that they're legally allowed to, then it would seem to me like, the same as somebody coming into a store.
Are you confident that all of the 200 temporary or licenses will actually come to fruition? That there's going to be the money, particularly with the
Well, that's an off-topic question, or a different topic question rather. But that first question that he was asked, I think is interesting, because I think you were talking
Yeah.
off air, or maybe it was on air, I can't remember, but about the idea of going D to C instead of direct to consumer instead of
Yeah.
B to B, or however you would call it, and with what you do. But it seems like he's open to the idea. I know that out of that controversy we alluded to earlier in the episode with the medical thing,
Yeah.
one of the things that was brought up actually out of that, which I was surprised. Uh, I'll try to find an episode if people want to learn more about that so that we can move on to hemp. But the thing that came out of that conversation that I was really surprised about was the idea that the reason the medical thing got chopped, for just to put it bluntly, from 2911,
Hmm.
was that some people argued that it wasn't fleshed out enough, or maybe it was burdensome in some ways. I don't know. I've heard all over the map the reasoning, but the point I'm trying to make is that one of the things that came up around that time, which was very, very recently. See, that clip I played you was from a long time ago. That was from 12/7/2022. This was just within the last year, when this whole thing with 2911 happened, that delivery came up again, so
Hmm.
it's just interesting that delivery is coming back. I think people can check out episode 101 for a recap on that. It looks like we had a legislative recap with Douglas Kelly and Peter Contos from the Cannabis Equity Illinois Coalition. So, and I believe we talk about that topic if you want to learn more. I think
Oh yeah.
we could spend a whole hour on that topic.
Definitely.
um, the only other thing I just wanted to say again before we wrapped up the topic of uh, transport, is, and this actually will kind of, in many ways, become relevant to this hemp conversation. Let's watch a quick report on transportation of cannabis in Illinois that's actually from 2021. I want to play this for people, and like I say, it'll become relevant too in our conversation about hemp, and I think it puts a good bow on our transportation conversation,
Excellent.
Investigates. Illinois has very tight rules for how cannabis can be transported and delivered.
In fact, those rules are stricter than the federal guidelines for opioids, the most abused drug in America. Here's the story from Phil Rogers.
Do we have more to grab? Yeah.
We're at a distribution center for Cresco Labs in suburban Chicago. And what these workers are loading
3365
is one of the most tightly controlled cargoes in America. The cargo is legal cannabis, at least legal in the eyes of the state of Illinois. But the rules for how it's transported are spelled out in pages of state regulations.
Security is aware of every shipment that goes out, where it's heading, what time they should arrive.
That security actually starts all the way back when the cannabis plants are grown. Each plant receives its own barcoded number. And those numbers follow the plants and their products through processing here at Cresco's suburban facilities, all the way through packaging, transport, and delivery to dispensaries statewide.
Correct. And we refer to as seed to sale.
Illinois law requires cannabis transporters to move their wares in vehicles where the products are locked tight in a separate compartment. Then there's a second set of locked doors outside. The trucks can't be marked, and at least one crew member has to stay in the vehicle at all times.
What is this? This is our tracking software platform.
Cresco's fleet is monitored in real time. Onboard cameras provide a view inside and outside the trucks, and GPS will alert the company if the truck tries to cross state lines.
We know exactly where they're at all times.
But there's a bit of irony here. Remember, in the eyes of the federal government, cannabis is still illegal. But the Illinois guidelines for transporting pot are much stricter than the federal rules for moving much more dangerous drugs.
It was very casual. All of the product would go into my personal vehicle in just a standard Coleman cooler.
Cresco's logistics manager, Joseph Franks, told us he used to work for a major hospital, transporting everything from chemotherapy drugs to prescription painkillers.
Where would it be in the car?
It would be in my back seat.
The DEA's position on moving even the most abused drugs in America, opioids like OxyContin, is that licensees are simply responsible for getting them where they are supposed to go. The federal regs say all applicants and registrants shall provide effective controls and procedures to guard against theft and diversion of controlled substances.
We do have a million.
And I thought this part was especially crazy. This consultant and what he has to say, and this video is almost over.
Millions and millions of controlled substances that are moved through this system, through the mail, through UPS, through FedEx.
Former DEA agent Jack Titleman now works as a consultant on compliance with drug regulations.
If you decide that your method of distribution is on the back of a bicycle and on a backpack because that fits into that neighborhood, and you've never had an issue, then that might be the correct way of making that delivery into that neighborhood.
2811.
That is not the case with marijuana in Illinois.
Illinois is the most heavily regulated state that we operate in.
Heavily regulated and lucrative, with nearly $1.8 billion in sales since it was legalized in Illinois just 2 years ago.
So again, that was from 2022. But I thought that episode or that report by CBS 5 still rings true in a lot of ways. And, one of the first things I think Norberto, or one of the transporters that has been on the show in the past, has said is like, they kind of said Crimea River. I think they were talking about like Cresco, because they're able to transport it. So they were like saying Crimea River. But on the other hand, like, I pitch it back and I'm just like, but isn't it pretty fucking silly that you had to build out all those things you had to build out when you consider that the DEA consultant literally just said you could do these deliveries on a bicycle, hypothetically?
Yep. Yeah, you can. And then you know what? We have to have two drivers. This is still out there. We have to have two people in the car as well. And our vehicles are tracked. I use drone. You can tell the speed of the vehicle, where it is at all times. I can lock the doors. I have deadbolt locks. All this stuff. I had to send in that to the Department of Ag, you
Well,
know.
and you know,
And like you said, yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but like even Allie,
Oh,
the lawyer leading the lawsuit for the transporters, I was talking to her about like how other states do it, and she was like, "Oh, cool." I gave the example of Oregon because we had an operator, an Illinois operator on that had started in Oregon, and she spoke about just literally picking up weed and putting it in her own personal car and like taking it to dispensaries. And then like even Allie was like, "Oh yeah, that's how I did it in Arizona. Like I would just buy the weed and put it in my car," you know.
Yeah, that was Portia, I think, right? Was that Portia
Correct.
who was
That's
delivering
Portia.
in Oregon?
Yep.
Yeah. She used to carry it around by herself, you know.
Hmm.
I mean,
Badass.
that is, and so that's badass. I mean, you know, I mean, we're, you know, I think at the very least, you know, you can give us one driver. I mean, I know that there is at least one delivery driver out there that is doing one driver right now. It doesn't say
Right.
it that you in the CRT. Okay, there's a checklist. However, I know of someone who said, "Hey, you know what? This doesn't say it. Are we allowed to do it?" They asked the Department of Ag that, and they said, "Well, what does your business plan say?" Okay, but you know, like with your business plan, I mean, we were throwing everything but the kitchen sink in, you know, in there to try to get it over the line. And then that checklist said, you know, that you need two people. So who's going to put one
Right.
on there and damage the whole fucking thing? You
Right.
know, and
Well,
I
and
mean, they're going to definitely
I
put
know that
two. Yeah.
you're trying to get 2911 across the board, but I'm just curious, like in the future, since there's a moratorium, right, on these licenses, like why not make it so that you guys can get some slack? I think one of the things you listed, right, was people having to pay the notes on these vans that they're not even using. And it's
Yeah.
like they shouldn't even have had to buy those fucking vans and that whole security
Yeah.
rig in the first place. You know, like they
Yeah.
honestly, we should have kept it that regulated for I actually I know hindsight is 2020 and that happened to be the year that we did this, but um you know, I really think that the way it should have happened is that all the medical dispensaries should have just stayed medical dispensaries. They should not have gotten plus ones. All there should have like literally the adult use market should have been these social equity people, and those medical operators, well, everybody that had a license before should have been kept out because that first mover advantage they got was just a
Yeah.
fucking landslide. And
Yeah.
they've done it in so many different states. I mean, it's the game plan, you know, get in with a
Yeah.
tightly regulated medical program and then flip the switch
Interesting.
to adult use, you know, and own the
Yeah.
market. So I know
Yeah.
again, it's easy for
Yeah.
me to say these things, you know, what did they say? Armchair, you know, commentary or whatever. When you're like, you know, it's easy to say things after all this has happened, but yeah,
No, you're spot on, man. You're spot on. And, you know, I've, you've been spot on with a lot of things, you know, and you're spot on here. This is, you know, it's, you're right. There's a lot of things that have, you know, I think that we obviously could have done, you know, a lot better. You know, the fact, and there's states that have done it a lot better. And the fact that we're continuing down the path of leaving, you know, the largest social equity, you know, group of people, we're the largest social equity group of people. So I mean, I can't see you claiming a victory lap. I mean, like I said, you know, I mean, I'm going to keep advocating for the transporters. I still have this license. I'm growing our group. You know, there's other people out there, you know, I'm discovering that, you know, they're like, hey, I didn't know that you were organizing. You know, I didn't know that these, you know, that this, you know, I had kind of given up, you know, so I'm, you know, we're growing. Okay. So I'm not going away. So you would think that there would be some change, you know, I mean, that we should be prioritized. You know, we're still not being prioritized. And yet, and I don't understand how you know, social equity can be a victory in Illinois when you have the largest social equity group of individuals, you know, that are going bankrupt as a result of this. I'm supposed to be going on Tavis. I'm hoping, you know, to be continuing to spread the word out here, man. You know,
yeah,
and you know, and saying this, so I'm hoping that something is. I'm hoping that, you know, like I said, I believe that Crew is going to do something for us. but I have to continue to tell a story of the cannabis transporters because we're losing our shirts. There's people who didn't. There was a grant recently, okay, and there's people in my group that didn't get it, okay, and the people that did get it, it's already gone because they had spent so much money and they were on the verge of bankruptcy, okay. But the people that didn't get it, they're really on the verge of going bankrupt right now,
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad you brought that up about the home delivery because there is the potential for Amazon, in some of these other places like Uber to come in and try to take it, and that there's going to be politicians out there that will be salivating over that money, okay, and then we could be potentially left out again. So I'm hoping that the state does the right thing here, and that's why it's important for us to have a loud voice and to stay in the media and to stay, out speaking on behalf of the transporters because, this otherwise, these things are just going to continue to happen under, in the shadows without being heard. And you can see right now, there's been a couple of stories on us already. Okay. And this is without us being organized. Okay. We were organized not on the level that we are now. So think what we can do now going forward as we grow and we grow and we grow, so you want to fix this, you want to, this is something that you don't want to leave us out here not fixed, you don't want to leave us out here like this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's shift to hemp. I know you were at the freaking press conference, brother.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You saw it go down live. That's pretty freaking cool. That's pretty cool. So, we recently had a discussion about hemp, but like, I honestly think hemp is like probably one of the best things. Look, I've been saying there's things that need to be addressed. We should take the best and leave the rest. It just so happens it rhymes. And but really it's the saving grace. It's probably one of the best things that has ever happened in my opinion for cannabis. But I'm curious and I'd be happy to expound upon that. But I'm curious to give you the floor, what are
Thank
your
you,
thoughts on
Cole.
hemp,
Well, all right. So as someone in my position, okay, as the head of the trade organization for the cannabis transporters for cannabis, okay, well, we're, and coming from a position where we are with what's happened, et cetera, and us, and us trying to build equity, having these guys, just kind of pop up, all right, and be able to do this, and it's legal, I understand that, is kind of a slap in the face, okay, for me, and for us, and for some of the friends I've made. Like I think that a lot of the craft growers are struggling to get off the ground too. Okay, the majority of them are off the ground. You have to raise a lot of equity there. Okay, and now somebody's coming in and they're selling the exact same product, but they're not, they're skirting all the laws and they're being able to sell it for, for cheaper and it's more convenient. It's shocking. I'm surprised that, that it's a blatant, I think that the fact that this was allowed is just an indication of how not well thought out some of the cannabis policy was, because look at how is this allowed to happen? How can I come and say, and squeeze a couple, squeeze this out of hemp and, to get this just to make it exactly like weed and this be totally legal and I can sell it wherever I want to sell it. That's not the spirit of the law. It shouldn't be like that. And everybody who did things the right way are suffering and they've lost a lot of money already. And they're already getting their shirts eaten by Michigan, because you can drive to Michigan. They put 2 dispensaries right on the border and they're selling this cannabis for cheaper than they are here, so because their taxes are cheaper, et cetera. So, they're suffering, I think we're all suffering. And I think it's an insult that the guys that are doing it are turning around and saying that, hey, we have a right to continue to do this. It's like, no, you don't, how would you think, what about everybody else? So, now if they were to say, if they were to say that cannabis can be sold just like that in the gas stations and everything, you know, then that's the fair way to go. Then that's probably the fairest way for everybody. Okay. And, you know, but if you would make one set of people selling the same product, if I'm selling a widget, okay, and I got to follow all these rules and my product is 5 times more expensive, and you can sell the same widget for 5 times cheaper and it's more convenient everywhere and everybody's going over there. It's like, that's not fair in any sense of any, you know, so that has to change. It has to change. You know, that's where I started. How I ended up at the press conference is that I felt like I'm in a lot of different groups, and I felt like that everybody's in their corner. Everybody in the cannabis industry was in their corner, just like, you know, hey, we got to do something. And the community organizer in me was just like, you know, well, we need to start meeting and talking about it, having the defense. These guys are eating our lunch, they're meeting, they're organized, you know. So I started to organize. I had a few people, I had 5 people, you know, show up to a couple of meetings to, you know, organize and build. So we have a base of operations to kind of build a defense. Okay. Before, I can go into what happened there. There was the MSOs. I think we were talking about that, you know, but yeah. But that's my take on it. But then I think you guys broke it down to me in the meeting. You know, I was hoping that and I brought this up to the head of oh God, I can't think of the organization right now, but it wasn't the Illinois Hemp organization. It was the Illinois Healthy Alternative Association. Okay, press conference as well. And I said that, I personally would take this as a foregone conclusion, and I would fight for shelf space. Because, this is what you need. It's not a ban. You can sell your stuff in the dispensary, but you should be getting some shelf. I would say, hey, there's already a rule out there for shelf space. Okay, why don't we shore it up? It's not being enforced. Why don't you partner with other people that would benefit from it being enforced? Okay, and then carve out, maybe you can carve out, if you are standing by this stuff. I've talked to people in this industry, and they were mad at me for going against it, and they've said that this is the real cannabis and that this is the best and people want this. If you can make that case, okay, then and you can differentiate your product from another product that's in the dispensary, then you're going to want the shelf space, because you can make that case. If you can make that case to the public, then people are buying it, then they're going to walk into the dispensary, like you're saying, and they're going to buy that over the cannabis. So that's where I thought they should go with that, but I don't think that they really bought onto it.
Well, a lot of people
you
just
were
get
there.
it
You were there,
delivered.
yeah.
No, I was not there at the
you weren't there at the press conference.
No, I wish I was.
At the meeting, we were on the meeting with what meeting were we on together?
Canna Equity.
Yes, we were on Canna Equity talking about it. Yeah, and I mean, I brought it up there thinking that people would buy onto it, but I kind of felt like they were still like, oh man, this is bad. This is happening to us, and it's not fair. When you really have to get past that and start, trying to carve out something for yourself, because sitting there commiserating, that's not going to do anything. You should be trying to move to the next stage, which is, hey, I got to sell my product now. Let me see how that's going to work. That's just my take on it. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to try to address some of the points you made. So like from my perspective, and I just want to say, like, for people that are listening, I consume a lot of these products. Like, that's what I love. Like you said, they go into stores. I actually don't get my hemp from stores, generally speaking. I get it like delivered through the mail. So I got like this little soda here that's got 50 milligrams of THC. Yeah. And
what?
So I don't think they actually make these anymore. They switched to all low dose, probably because they're worried about what this hemp thing is going on. But anyway, this is a social equity licensee. I always like to make that point. It's River Bluff. They've got a hemp license and a social equity license. So
interesting.
One of the things you started with, and they're not the only people that do that, by the way. We were just talking actually before we got on air earlier today about Curaleaf is doing that. There are
Yeah,
brands that partner with MSOs in this state, like El Camino, for example. I believe they're doing hemp. Wana, the most well-known, I would say, gummy brand. Would you agree? Wana is a pretty
I would
well-known.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah, they're doing
yeah.
hemp now. Cookies does hemp. Like GTI does hemp. GTI just bought, as I think I was telling you earlier today, a company called Agrify that's listed on NASDAQ. They're selling hemp. So the first point you had made about like skirting the laws, like if they fall within that 0.3% threshold, which I actually pull up a graphic here just to because it makes it much easier to make the point of like what we're talking about for people that have
Mhm.
no idea what we're talking about. Oh crap, I clicked on it and then it moved. Um, I'll display it here in a second, but as long as you fall within that threshold, you are following the law. I think we would both agree that the law could use some refinement. How about that?
Yeah,
Because right now, all we're testing for is this THC level. And this is what the language means from the Farm Bill. So it's just a graphic. This helps. The language has been extrapolated to mean any hemp product or any cannabis product, really, with less than 0.3% THC by weight is in fact legal hemp. So it shows this gummy with like only a little bit of THC, but mostly sugar, gelatin, and other things, cornstarch. That means it's quote unquote hemp. So I think that's like where I like to start with this conversation. Like these words we're using, they're not even based in science. Like cannabis, as we know, is the botanical term. Like that's the scientific term that, like, if you're going to ask scientists
hmm
what the plant name is, it's Cannabis sativa. The reason there's two names is because it's binomial nomenclature, taking us back to junior high science, right? So like humans, for example, Homo sapiens, right? But anyway, Cannabis sativa, that's the scientific term for the plant. But then we've got these legal terms. Two two pretty recent legal terms. Marijuana, which I know a lot of people don't like to use that word, but that is the legal word for any cannabis that's above that 0.3% threshold that we were just talking about. Hemp is anything below that. It's all cannabis,
yeah,
but you know, there's those legal distinctions. And so just the first point you made about skirting the law, it's like, no, there's just a new law. Like it's the federal law, right? And
yes,
unfortunately, to your point, it did, you know, it does challenge your business model, in many ways. Like, and I have a level of empathy for that because it's like, damn, you paid so much to get into the system, and here these people come, like you said, and they can just come in and do it. But I
yeah.
guess I have a few more points I wanted to address that you made, but my whole thing, and I started off with this company, somebody as small as this, and I actually had Scott Redmond on in the show past. Speaking of Scott, he's been on the show a few times,
Oh,
and
that's awesome. I did not know that.
yeah, people should check out
That's
episodes we've done
cool,
together
man.
because they're all
Yeah,
really
I
great.
will
He
for
always
sure.
he always has a
Yeah.
lot of good things. One of the things he let me know is that River Bluff got into hemp before they got into cannabis, and they do both of them. And I was like, all right. I mean, honestly, the order to me doesn't really matter. The point is, like, nothing is stopping anybody from getting into hemp, but the same cannot be said for the cannabis licenses. I mean, again, the transport licenses have a moratorium, all the other licenses are locked down. And yeah, this hemp thing is just if you follow those rules, which I think we again agree that first of all, testing standards should be stricter, labeling standards should be required, and age you should not be allowing children to buy this. I don't think there really are many children buying this. I think that's like kind of a red herring, by the way, because they always like they make the point like, oh, your kid's not going to know the difference between this. And it's like, yeah, except for the fact that the pack of nerds costs $3 and the pack of nerds that are infused costs $30. What kind of kid is
Yeah.
walking around like, and what store are your kids going to? Like, there's so many questions I have. But anyways, I just wanted to address the points of skirting the law and people that did things the right way. It's not that I don't think it's fair to say these people are doing it the wrong way. They're doing it a different way. Are there bad actors? Yes. I've seen plenty of them. I've gone to gas stations and seen exactly the products that I don't, let's just say deserve a little bit more oversight, right? Testing,
Yeah.
labeling, and if your products aren't what they say to be, you should, be punished for that. I think we've already got a pretty solid mechanism for that. The Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Like, if this beer, for example, is mislabeled, like if I get a whole pack, like I have a recourse, like there's like legal problems that come with selling products that aren't what you say they are. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think we should just apply that to hemp. And so, really quick, just a few other points. I know I wanted to
No,
like
I
let
know
you
100%. Yeah, I
say,
appreciate it. For
so
sure,
the
brother.
Michigan point is another really good one that you brought up. Like, you're definitely having competition there. Like you said, there are literally dispensaries on the border, and they are less than an hour away from Chicago, which is crazy. I mean, you got to do that little scary drive through Indiana, but uh, man, is it worth it
Yeah.
sometimes, right? And look, here's the thing, people say that all the time. They're like, you should be careful going through Indiana. Like, you could get arrested. It's like, honestly, the quantities that people buy when they go to Michigan, they can get arrested no matter where they are, even in Illinois. You know what I'm saying? So like, and also that's not a new thing. Like, I've been having to worry about getting arrested for like the last 15 years driving around with cannabis. It's like and you still do, by the way, because of the Illinois Supreme
Yes.
Court ruling. So look, I know I'm kind of going off on all different ways, but
No.
like, when you said they say we have the right to continue to do this, it's like, it is crazy to think, like, I know that people say that. Um, and I like, I think what a lot of the good actors are saying right now, it seems like they're asking for more regulation, you know? They
Yeah.
don't want to be
Yeah.
banned, and they don't want to be limited to the dispensary. And I don't know, I want to give you some space to respond, but we talked about this last time on the cannabis equity. I don't think you can just like I couldn't just bring this drink. Like, let's say this is not River Bluffs. Like, okay,
hmm
River Bluff has the canning equipment, obviously, right? So they could probably
Yeah.
bring it over into their facility and start making drinks, to your point. But like, what's crazy about the way that hemp is right now is, like, technically, I actually interviewed David Lakeman, and he was like, Cole, if you would have applied for a hemp license this morning, you'd be leaving with one this afternoon. And I'm like, damn, you cannot say the same thing about a cannabis license, you know?
No.
So I
Yeah.
want to give you
Yeah.
space to like respond, because like, I think there's a lot that we agree on, but there's like, one of the specific things I recall you saying in like the Canna Equity call was like something about the idea of like doing it in your basement. And I remember thinking, like, I get what you're trying to say. There definitely should be more oversight. And actually, a proposal like House Bill 5903 would require that you're, oh God, what's the phrase? Hmm, it's a standard, um, GMP, something like that. I don't know. It's like
Hmm.
a standard for cleanliness. Like, God damn it, I'll have to look it
Oh,
up.
yes, yes, yes. Gotcha. I totally understand.
Do you know, like, in food,
Yeah.
what the hell is that called?
Yeah.
Yeah, good manufacturing process. CGMP. It's it's FDA. I'd had to Google it really quick just to make sure I was like saying the right thing. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm talking about. Anyways, like, House Bill 5903 would make it so that that scenario you laid out where you're like cooking in your bathtub or like in your basement, like, that's not going to happen. Like, that'll automatically weed out those types of actors. But I also added the point that, like, some of our best businesses, like, I've got the iPhone in my pocket right now, like, they literally started in their
Yes, they
garage,
did.
you know?
Yes, they did.
Anyways, your
Yes.
space now, because I went all over the place.
No, I love that. No, yes, and I followed you every bit of the way. Well, I think that there, if them wanting to, so in the Canada Equity call we were talking about, like you were saying, they didn't want to be to have to go through the processes that infusers or have to go through in order to make an edible product, because they wanted to continue to be able to do it like they were doing it. I think that that's what kind of what we were saying, right?
Mhm.
And I think that the reason why that they want to continue to do it like they want to be doing it is because of the cost.
Because your
And I
regulations
think,
suck.
yes, the regulations do suck. Okay.
Yeah.
And if they have to play by them, then their costs are going to go up. So if their costs go up to comparable to what a cannabis product is of the same kind, okay, then I think that what they're thinking is that they're not going to be able to compete. Okay.
Well,
But
here,
that is a,
let me put it this way, because you're actually, I think you're saying what I'm about. I want to just try to put it like succinctly. Like you're basically saying we should treat cannabis as we do under the CRTA, which is, just to put it bluntly, as a controlled substance. Whereas hemp right now, as you say, not only do you not have those regulations yet, but there are proposals like House Bill 5903, which again, I think would weed out it, like GMP standards. Like I wouldn't be able to comply with that. Like I've got to grow
yeah,
behind, like, but like if you can start a kitchen and get like a food license, like I feel like you should be able to do that with, you use the example of infusion. Like I think you should be able to do that. And just to quickly wrap up my point, because I told you I'd be brief about it, and I still want to give you the space here.
totally cool.
Um, Under the CRTA, cannabis is treated as marijuana, which is a scheduled substance. And as a result of that, I know that Illinois just removed the 280E taxes at a state level, but you still have to deal with it at a federal level. You can't bank, as you just said. You've got a lot of banking
Yeah.
costs. And hemp people still actually do have a little bit of a green tax from what I've heard. But they have much more flexibility with banking. They can accept credit cards. They can send their products through the mail. Like all these things I think you could benefit from. And it's a result of like I don't like why do you want those regulations, if I could ask that? It's because it feels like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
defending those regulations, which you already, like the whole beginning of the show, and we all agree they suck,
Yes. Yes.
overregulated.
This is a brilliant point. This is a brilliant point, Cole. Okay, I am defending them. All right. And the only reason, and I shouldn't be, okay, I shouldn't be, because, and you're right. Okay. Because, I think that, that what we should be doing, okay, is, and this is what normally happens in history. Okay. Is that I think that, if you have a problem, then I think that sometimes, when you're trying to fix it, there's a little bit of an overcorrection, but let's just say I think in a perfect world, the conversation that we should be having, okay, is having them at the table and saying, how, okay, can we bring these regulations to a comparable state, okay, that would allow a competitive market, so because if we bring down, if cannabis, if cannabis is brought down to the same regulatory level as hemp, then that is a fair market, okay. If hemp is brought in regulatory level as cannabis, then that's a fair market. So it's like, why are we arguing for, the latter, or the first one, you know what I mean, which is, the more regulation. We shouldn't be,
Yeah.
we should be arguing for the other person to come down. So that's the conversation that we should be having, because the goal is to have a fair market, now what are your thoughts on this? Okay, because if you bring cannabis down to the same regulation as hemp, which ones are the customers are going to buy? Is that still, I mean, same regulation. So that mean that, I don't know. I think something has to be done about the gas station, even in the packaging. They are willing to do the packaging, but I think something has to be done about the gas station, because I think that's just a little bit too convenient.
Right.
I think
And
that
like
there's yes,
sorry,
for
go ahead.
sure.
You said too convenient.
Yeah, I think that's too convenient, because I think that there's a barrier. Even though if you're 21, even though you can walk into a cannabis, into a dispensary and show your ID and go through the double doors, et cetera, and get the cannabis. I think that is a tiny bit of a barrier, that helps to some degree. And the reason why I'm saying this is because these, 20, I think that a friend of mine, her son, this was a story that stuck with me, is that she and they were on a road trip, and he was in the back seat. He's a college student. He's 21. They went into a gas and they bought something, okay, that that just really, really fucked him up. Okay, I mean, they were just. She said that she looked behind in the back seat and they were just super high. Okay, and from something that he asked, like, what did you guys take? They took something in the gas station that just blasted them. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's like, I mean, yeah, you can go in the dispensary and get that if you want, but I don't know. It's something about being able to go into the gas station and get like something like that, I mean, you can get alcohol and it's still going to mess you up.
I mean, that's what I was
I
gonna say.
think the alcohol is way more
I got
dangerous
this
than,
from a gas station.
yeah, yeah, that's true, but I don't know, something about that stuck with me. I don't know if it should be sold. I guess that's a different conversation, if whether it should be sold in the gas station. But if
Well,
it just was on the
I don't
same
know.
regulatory
I think it's
level,
about the same. Like that's kind of what look, I think the solution is that it's behind the counter, you know.
behind the counter.
And look, honestly, I should have taken a picture earlier today. I went and at a few gas stations, I actually took video. Maybe I can send them to myself and play them. But like in the candy section at the end of the aisle, there's displays full of shooters of alcohol. And it's not behind the counter at all. Like I said, it's in the candy section. And I'm not
Yes,
saying that's
and yes,
okay.
yes,
I'm not saying
yeah.
that we should put the cannabis there too. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like it could
No, I
be
feel
in the
you.
store at
Yeah,
least, you know.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
sell a
I
lot of
got you.
crazy shit
I
at
got
gas
you.
stations, like boner pills and stuff. Like,
Do
you know,
they do? And this is probably just the boomer in me, coming out, saying this, and I mean, and me thinking, because that's where I went
yeah.
when I'm not a boomer yet, by the way, but I'm starting to get those tendencies,
Somebody, yeah,
the
that's funny.
that could be it, you're right, and I think that I mean, if it's in there and it's in there for a long time, I think people will adjust.
Well, and I think like with
Just
the
like they've
story you
adjusted.
told,
Yeah.
exactly the point you just made, people will adjust. Like I think the story you just told, like if those people did not have a good time, they probably won't ever buy something like that again. They were 21 years old. That sounds like honestly an awesome story with regard to like freedom and civil liberties in Illinois or in the United States.
Yeah.
Because they made it the choice. They're like, huh, this might be an intoxicant. It doesn't sound like they like. Are you saying that they mistakenly did it or?
No, they did it on purpose, I think,
See, that's
from the way I
awesome. That's
understood the
awesome,
story.
you know?
Yeah.
And look, I don't think you should honestly buy anything, like you said. Honestly, I don't know. It'll take me a while before but like if I saw a brand like this in the gas station, I'd be like, yeah, or like, you know,
Mhm.
the cookies, or I even called like a few bars in Peoria the other day and not Agrify, sorry. It's called Senorita, which is the company. You remember earlier I said GTI bought Agrify, the NASDAQ listed company.
Yes.
They have these Senorita
Hmm.
drinks and they're being sold in Illinois and online and but yeah, like 3 of the 5 bars I called in Peoria, Illinois, which also Tom Howard has been on the show and he's from Peoria, Illinois. 3 of the
Yeah.
5 bars I called had not only Senoritas, which is like I say a GTI drink, but some had Can, which are in Illinois dispensaries. That's also a GTI
Mhm.
partner product. I might be wrong on that. But the point is that they're also in Illinois dispensaries and like to your point, and I'll pitch it back to you. I
Mhm.
do think we will adjust and like, you know, if somebody has like that's what we like that's the reason people don't go buy Everclear, for example. Like, and
Mhm.
that's why
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I went and bought this because like I also know that like if I buy those Bud Light Platinums, which are like much higher in alcohol, like I got
Yeah.
to take it easy on that.
Yeah.
I've gotten put in a place that I
Yeah.
shouldn't be, you know?
That's, very good, interesting point. And you know what? I think that like your generation, I'm one generation above you, maybe two. I don't know. But I think that our generation on down, Gen X, and on down, a lot of us, one of the reasons why we're kind of living longer is because of prohibition of alcohol. We're not drinkers. I think that we're more into the healthier things. We're living lives. And people are shying away from smoking. Cigarettes.
I'm sure
And I
not.
think
Oh,
people are drinking a lot. Yeah. I mean, the cigarettes is the one that's got all the carcinogens
yeah.
in it.
Well, and
And yeah.
to your point, those rates are falling because we've got really good public health campaigns that argue against them. I actually had somebody
Yeah.
that's recently opposed to marijuana on the show, a cop, but I've had a few people that are just completely opposed.
Oh my God, I gotta
And
see that one too.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
send it to you. It's a good one. He was a border patrol, DHS, local, federal, state cop. Yeah, he did a lot. He had 20 years experience, and we did not agree on everything. But one of the points we did agree on was the fact that the reason alcohol and tobacco rates are falling is because we've had very effective public health campaigns. Like everybody knows those like commercials with
Yeah.
with the lady like talking with the hole in her throat or whatever. I always use that as like the
Yeah.
example.
Mhm.
We've had very effective public health campaigns, and frankly, if you think about the health campaigns on marijuana, they've not been very effective. It's like that woman melted into the couch. It's like, man, I want whatever she
Yeah.
smoked. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, to your point, those unhealthy options will, and again, I want to just say, I think how the reason House Bill 5903 is a better bill than House Bill 4293 is,
40, yeah, 4293. Yeah.
yeah, is because it's acknowledging that cannabis, a part of it that meets that definition of hemp is federally legal, and so you should be able to sell it as long as you label it accurately, as long as you don't have any toxins. Again, anything that you shouldn't have in a food product, like it's really simple,
Mhm.
should not be in the cannabis product. And then as long as you meet those rules, again, testing, labeling, preventing minors or less than 21 from purchasing, then you're good to go. And if you don't do that, this is the important part because it's not just a free for all. If you
Mhm.
don't do that, they will, as the bill spells out, there are already punishments under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, not only at the federal level, but at the state level, that you will be prosecuted for if you're selling adulterated products or
Mhm.
mislabeled products, or if a kid, one of these stories about like you're going to get in trouble. And that I feel like
Yeah.
everybody should agree on that, and I just don't understand, again, back to the original point, and this is what I think the debate about hemp is. I don't understand why there's a lot of these good things. You don't have to pay 280E. You can accept credit cards. You can ship federally. By the way, sorry, we'll talk about that in a second, but you're open up to the you can sell anywhere, and it's much easier than the CRTA. So I don't understand like why people are standing up for the CRTA. Like why not take the best and leave the
Yeah,
rest?
I totally understand. You know what? Then why is so who's behind the 52? What's the bill number? The other
5903.
Hemp bill.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
Senator. I'll look it up, but I think you're asking the group, and it's the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. But I'll also give you
I
the
don't have.
representative
Okay,
in case that's what you're asking.
gotcha. So I think that what they should put in, because what
Representative
the difference.
Harper, Sonia Harper.
Okay, the difference in the two bills, okay, is what we were just discussing. Is that one brings the hemp industry up to the CRTA, okay, and which is the bad legislation and all the regulation that we shouldn't want, okay, and this one leaves us in the CRTA and puts
But
them
you
in
can come
a
over.
different category. We can come now if so. What they should do is, because people may not want to come over, okay, to sell. I totally understand that, but people may not want to come over. So what they should do in
Why?
the
Hold
Harper
on though.
bill.
Why though? Why do
Mhm.
you think people may not want to come over? Because that's I want to just say
Again,
that right there is so interesting to me because it's like on one fence, on one side of the fence, let's say the hemp side of the fence, people are saying, "Come on over, anybody and everybody," and but then it seems like on this side of the fence, it's like no, we need to stay here and don't go on that side of the fence.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I
And
think that
you're not, I guess the key point
yeah,
is you're not saying like when people on that side of the fence are saying, "Can we come over?" You're like, "No." But they're like, "Okay, but you can come
yeah,
over whenever."
that's true. That's true. And I mean, if it was up to me, I mean, I would say they should all come over, and
But they
they should be
can't
given
though.
some licenses. Yeah, but they can't, like you said. So what I think the bill should do, okay, in addition to this regulation, is that there should be something in there. Harper should put something in there, okay, that brings the CRTA down to this level, okay, and to level out the playing field, because that's essentially what you want to do, and I think that everybody would be okay with that. I don't know anybody on the cannabis side that will say we want the higher regulation, okay, when people are opposing, hey, we're going to, if Harper said, hey, we're going to cut your legislation down to what this bill is and give everybody a level playing field, I don't think anybody on this side would oppose that.
But I feel
Let
like
the
that's what's
products compete naturally,
yeah.
at the same level, because if you don't do that, then you're giving these guys a kind of an unfair advantage, and that's not fair. You should want, if your product should be able to stand to, I bet you that if you bring down, if cannabis was brought down to the same level of hemp as far as regulation goes, um, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that people are going to, which one are people going to choose? I think that maybe they would choose them both. You know what I mean? I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that
I
there would
think
be the
so.
same. I mean,
I
yeah,
really
I think
think that
so. I think that
that's
there
the
would
way
be
that it is
reason.
right
Yeah,
now, and it's like
yeah,
I think some people are okay with going to a dispensary. Occasionally I will. Definitely not in Illinois though, because they're just so inconvenient and overpriced.
yeah.
Like it's very rare that you'll find me at one in there, but like it just really is. But like some people are okay with going there and that's cool. I've had so many people that just say like, "Have you ever heard of Benny's liquor store?"
Yeah,
Yeah, like some of my
yeah.
family
Benny's is
members
a
have
big store.
seen
Yeah,
the hemp drinks. They sell hemp drinks in
yeah,
Benny's, and it's like you would not catch them alive in a dispensary. But do they go to Benny's sometimes to get a little bit of wine or something? Yeah. And then all of a sudden they see a THC
yeah.
drink section, and it's like, whoa, hey, I might try that. I
That's
just try a
cool.
sip. And so like I just think that this is all good for cannabis. It's good like for normalization. I've had more people try cannabis drinks, these hemp drinks rather, um, than I would ever be able to persuade to like, oh, take a hit or take a gummy,
Absolutely. That's a
you
really
know?
good point. Yeah. That's a great point. You know what? That is a great point. And I see what you're saying now about how the hemp is better for, the whole industry as a whole, because now I can see the connection there. I think that the only thing that we would need to do then is, why is Harper, or why isn't anybody I think that if they're saying come over, then they should be advocating for normalization,
They're
of cannabis on the same level as hemp,
Dude, they
to
are. We
bring these
smoked
guys.
weed. We smoked weed on the steps of the Capitol. I smoked weed with them, on the steps of the Capitol. I think they're doing a lot to normalize weed. I think what honestly the other people need to do is what you have already started. I think you're ahead of the pack, Ted. You're suing the state of Illinois for fucking you over on this bullshit ass system. And I think the rest of them need to do the same thing and hop over to hemp. And by the way, the ones that are in the CRTA right now, they've got their facilities. Some of them have them built and they just can't get the paperwork or, this or that, whatever it might be. Look, like open up, convert that facility into a hemp facility and smoke the hempers out of town. Like if you're so strong and good at those standards, like do it, do it and stand out. That's kind of the
For
way I look
sure.
at it. You know what I mean? And it's like fuck the CRTA. As we've been saying, like it's a bad law. It's just a bad law. And it's not
Yeah.
that it wasn't look, there's good intent. People like take it the wrong way when I say that. I'm just calling it how it is. It's like that was a strike. Sorry. Didn't you,
I mean, we're getting, yeah. I mean, it's leaving some of them, some people that I know. I mean,
I
literally,
really just want to
bankrupt.
say
I had a
really
guy,
quick.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
think there was good intent behind the legislators. I think there was good intent. Everybody meant well. But there is a saying, and it's called "the road to hell is paved with good intentions." So, and it's not that they
Yeah.
meant to do that. Again, I'm not saying that. There certainly was a
No,
lot of
I
money at
understand.
play.
Yeah.
I think that these legislators did just about the best as they could. They were dealing with a lot at the time,
They,
state budget crisis and everything else.
yeah, and they got and he got it over, and JB got it over the line. I have a lot of confidence in JB. Honestly, I would support him as president. I know that that's probably going to eliminate make a lot of people think one way about me. But I think that he's I'm a pragmatist. I'm a pragmatist. I think that and I think he's kind of the same way. And because I'm not one way. I don't usually vote a whole ticket up and down. I mean, I'll vote for the best candidate. So I think that he's would be a good choice for me. But you're right. I think that the CRTA is messed up. It's crushing us. So I can't sit here and advocate for it if it's
Well, and I
crushing us.
guess my
I've been,
thing
like you
is
said,
like
I've been sitting there.
the people that are funding this, you said earlier they're eating our lunch, and I wrote down, do you have any concerns about the motivations behind the people that have been eating your lunch? Like, they favor this type of market that's limited, and they have been eating your lunch for the past 4 years. And I'm not saying that like to diss you. I'm literally just using the state of
No,
Illinois'
for sure.
disparity study where they said like 95% of the cultivation sales went to all white owners. I think it was like
Yeah.
upwards. It was like 75 or 80. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. It's in my mini doc. You can see it at colememo.com/mini doc. The figures are in that, and the citations are there, so you can look into it yourself if you'd like. Listeners, that's for people that are listening.
Yeah. No,
Um,
100%. Yeah.
but again, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like this. I think it's just I would be worried if I were you and others, like, because it's like I don't think they're doing this to protect the social equity licensees, which is what they've been saying, by the way.
Yeah, no, there, what I mean, there's nothing, I mean, honestly, they're not, and I mean, I find that unfortunate,
Because they're in hemp. Some of them are in
yeah,
hemp, so you can't.
yeah, they're
And
making the
we even
pre-rolls,
talked
and
to
yeah,
Ted, we talked
yep,
to a infuser the other day on that Canna Equity call who has a social equity license. I actually got her email and stuff. I got to connect with her because this is a super interesting story. But she was basically just saying, like, look, I've been trying so hard to get a cannabis product on the shelf, and she does. But then she explained, like, we also just launched a hemp product because we were looking at the like the ROI, the return on investment. And she was like, not only was it easier to get to market, but I was making much more profit than the dispensary and flexible and all this stuff. And it's like, wow, it's just another person that's like, I feel like seen the light in
yeah.
that regard.
Yeah, everybody who dives into it, I was telling a friend about this. It's like, it's almost like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or like something like that, where that's probably before your time. But one day you'll be talking to somebody, and then the next day they're into hemp, and then they're gone. They're like, man, this is because they're making so much in it, and I mean, and I understand that. And I think that you can't. You can't. It has to be an equal system.
But that
So
is, I
you
feel like
can't leave us.
that is the most equal system because you can just leave, you can just start. Like it's not just that you're making money. It's that the reason you're making money is because you're not having to deal with the CRTA, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think it boils down to, like we were saying, and we never addressed this, is that why would you not want to switch over to hemp if you're into
Yeah.
cannabis?
Yes.
Now, I think that a lot of people don't ask themselves that question. I would say that it should be a choice. If you want to, then you can. If you don't, then you know what I mean. Then you should be able to still do your thing until you decide. You shouldn't be forced to have to do this in order to survive. And I think that if your only solution for the guys who played by the rules and did everything right is to get into hemp, then it kind of forces them to have to do that. I think that the fair way to do it is to bring bring the regulations down, and we shouldn't be supporting the CRTA, honestly. Like you said,
Yeah, but
that's
again, though, like
not
when you
logical,
say when you say fair, again, when I use the example that David Lakeman gave, what is more fair than applying for a license in the morning and leaving with one in the afternoon? Like the only thing that's the only thing that's stopping you is there's nothing really stopping you. But like again, I just can't. The same can't be said about if I want to get in the CRTA, you know?
Yeah,
Like
it's
even
bad.
you're
The
in the
CRT, yeah,
CRTA and you can, I'm not like literally the first half of the show was you talking about how you are
was
you were
me.
in the
Yeah,
CRTA, but you can't even, like, and it's no fault of your own. You're a professional and you have a
yeah,
really, like, it sounds like you have a lot of experience doing a lot of different things, which would lend itself to being successful. It's not that you're not built for it. It's that I think the market is just fucked, you know?
it's the market.
But
Yeah,
again,
they're smart people. We have
I get
mhm.
lost. I want you to address the point of like I feel like it is fair because what's unfair is the CRTA.
Yeah, you're right. The CRTA is unfair,
Like I
and
can't get in
yeah,
the
just touch.
CRTA unless I
Yeah,
like partner with you or partner with Scott, which is an option.
yeah.
You guys are cool people and I've had you on the show and maybe I could talk about it one of these days if I really want to get in the cannabis industry, but like, you know, that's the only option. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it should be, it should be open. It should be as open, as it is in hemp. I would argue that, because the more customers, the more people that are, if the CRTA was as open as it is easy it is to get into hemp, if they were both level, then we're going to have more customers and we would be working more, and I think, and it would be a fairer for everyone, but yeah, I want to just real touch on your point about about people being successful. I mean, yeah, we've got MBA. I've got two people with MBAs in our on our board.
And I
Okay,
wanted
and
to
I've
ask
got
you,
a
are you a
former
veteran?
state representative. Oh no, my dad. Yeah,
Oh,
my dad was yeah. So I grew up in my dad was in the military.
well,
So
I'm gonna
yeah,
say to
yeah.
him, thank you for your service. Anyways, go on.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that, um, you know, I think that, yeah, like I was saying, I think they should bring, both of them should be brought down to the same level, because, if you do that, and I don't know why that's not being discussed, why is
Well,
there not a bill on the
I feel
table
like
to, you know,
5903 is that bill, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, like it is that bill. I really believe that.
does it,
And but
does it
agnostic of
bring down
that,
cannabis?
it
Yeah.
yes, I think it does, but hold on a second. I just wanted to also say that agnostic of 5903, it just so happens
Mhm.
5903 aligns with a lot of this. I'll put this in the show notes. I wrote this article about what I believe the future of cannabis, hemp, and marijuana policy should be. It's really just cannabis policy
Oh, this
again.
is awesome. Mhm.
And it's got a short 3-pager that kind of just explains how I think it's called Take the Best and Leave the Rest. It starts off with what I think is good about hemp, some context and everything, and then some of the key benefits that they have. And then I've got recommendations on how to make it better, in my opinion. And I want people to check it out. It just so
That's
happens that
awesome.
5903
Yeah.
like aligns with it pretty well. But
Yeah.
I believe that is, you can ask, I want to get me back on that point if you would. I don't want to like avoid your question here, but I did want to play this part as
No, for
well
sure.
from like, what do you think about
100%.
this part? Because again, I don't really go to hemp stores. I don't know, like maybe some people do. But I feel like one of the things that's convenient about hemp is that you can just get it ordered online. And again, from what I understand, this is from Leader Lightford's mouth. Let's just watch the clip.
Gotcha.
People. Thank you, Mr. President. For further discussion, Senator Preston, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. President. To the sponsor.
The sponsor indicates you'll yield.
Are there any provisions in this bill that will stop the online sales from out-of-state companies?
Senator Lightford.
He turned away from the mic. I heard online sales. I didn't hear the end part.
Senator Preston.
I apologize. Are there any provisions in this legislation that will prevent the purchase of these products from online companies outside of the state of Illinois.
Senator Lightford.
Right, we're unable to regulate outside of the state of Illinois, so we have no regulations.
Senator Preston.
Were there any studies conducted?
So the point is that this bill, from what I understand, wouldn't stop online sales because it can't, because this is federally legal.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
But what do you think about that part? Because again, do you think, I think the operating thought here, if I'm wrong, Ted, correct me if I'm wrong here, just to get to brass tacks, because I know we've been going a long time and we can wrap up. I want to thank you, by the way, for being really generous with
Oh man, this has been fantastic.
We
This
should do it
man,
again.
the time I don't even know where it went. Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But okay, so okay, so we were just talking about online sales. So the operating idea is, sorry, I almost lost my train of thought. You saw me jogging it. Anyways, the operating idea seems to be that if we shut this down and it's not sold in gas stations anymore, if it's not sold in smoke shops anymore, if it's not sold in like wherever, right? Anywhere except for dispensaries, that it's gonna like help the cannabis industry. Right?
Right.
I think that's the operating
That's
thought. And I think there's a certain
Yeah.
factor of it which is true. Like I said, my aunt and some of these people that I think have just happened upon these drinks and bennies or whatever, I don't think they're gonna convert to online sales of these drinks unless they really love them, you know. But I don't think
Yeah.
that's gonna happen, is my point. I think they are definitely gonna
Gotcha.
have to be forced to go to the dispensary. But my point is all these people like myself that already just order online, because that's just kind of the whole thing about it. You know, we order everything online, right? And if you
Yep.
find trusted
Yeah.
people, you know, and if it's bad, it's bad. You know, you leave a bad review, you don't buy from them again. But anyways, it doesn't address that at all because it can't. Are you
Yeah.
worried at all
It
about that? Like if this is just like a misnomer or a wasted effort?
No, you know what? You know what? I think you're right. I think that you know, I think that it's being, you know, that part is being kind of oversold. I don't know if that's the right word. Is being, you know, saying that, hey, you know what, this is going to eliminate it, because it's not. You know, because of these online sales still exist, and there's major people getting into it now. Snoop has a website where you can buy it, you know, online. You know,
THCA,
yeah, THCA. I yeah, I think that part is, you know, being, it's like you said, it's gonna, the effect that this is going to have is going to be minimized by the fact that you can still get this online. And I don't think that the minimization, how it's going to be minimized, is being highlighted at all. You know, nobody's really talking about it, you know, and they should be. You know, I think that there was one question asked about that at the press conference, and I think that, you know, the response was kind of like, you know, yeah, it's not going to get everybody, you know what I mean, but it's going to be the, you know, it's like you said, you know, like your aunt's not going to order it online, you know, unless you like really liked it, you know, so it's going to get a few people, you know. And so, yeah, you know, I think that is a good, if I'm on the hemp side, you know, then that's the argument. It's just shutting me down. It's not shutting everybody else down, you know. So why are you going to shut me down? I'm in the state, you know, and, you know, you're going to let the non-state people, you know, go ahead and make the money, you know, and you're leaving me out, you know. So, you know, I think that that's not, I mean, it's not fair, you know what I mean, that is happening, and you can still sell it, you know what I mean, you can still get it out of state. There is no way to stop that,
and
you know.
the bill just
Yeah.
adds, so it basically takes as JB Pritzker actually says during the press conference, it takes the existing criminal enforcement mechanism from the law, and it adds, they didn't mention this part, but it's in the bill. I can display it, or people can just look it up. What is it again? 4293.
Yes.
It basically adds $10,000 daily fines in addition to the criminal penalties. And like again, I just think, see, that's what's weird about the CRTA, is that's the answer. it's if you're not under the CRTA, you're a criminal still. So that whole drug war thing, like it's still going on. And then
Yes, it is. Yeah.
and then like hemp, it's like you can get into it, and the answer is the only time it involves, I would say, even prison time is if you're really doing something wrong, like if you're hurting people. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that's
Yeah.
warranted.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, for sure. And you know what too is that one other thing point I should make is that I think that if I was in the hemp industry, then I would um um I would still be worried about the farm bill changing in some way,
Right.
with this new administration coming in. So I still would be kind of planning to have to go under some type of of a state legislation, you know what I mean, wherever I am, because they just did something in Texas, and I think that they just banned it there, and I think that this incoming administration is not going to allow this
And you
sale
know
of this.
what?
I
What's
think they're
awesome about to that point, House Bill 5903, if I'm not mistaken, makes it so that the state definition of hemp conforms to the federal definition of hemp, which means that if the farm bill does change it, 5903, it's changed. And to your point, I've definitely heard a back and forth. There's actually even a representative from Illinois that has introduced a measure that would ban hemp or change the definition of hemp at a federal level. Representative Mary Miller, I believe. I don't know if it's Senator. I think it's Representative Mary Miller. Um,
interesting.
yeah, she introduced. It's called the Miller Amendment. A lot of people refer to it. There's been different ones. Um, there's a lot of different proposals. I personally don't see it going away. Honestly, I think there's just even the big cannabis companies are in it. What I think actually I see happening is, and maybe we can play this to put a bow on the episode. I've got a really short clip of actually. You remember I was telling you about Boris Jordan, Curaleaf?
Yes.
Let me pull up a clip that I have of him. But anyways, I really just think that if anything's going to happen, it's going to be that the states find a way to deal with it. And I'll just say, like, you brought up Michigan earlier. Like, Michigan doesn't have a problem with hemp. And I think it's just because there are so many dispensaries and everything's so cheap that, like, people ain't buying hemp, and they've got delivery and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. They got delivery.
It's
Yeah.
so easy to go to the
Yeah.
dispensary, Again, it's just another case of CRTA. But I got this Boris clip queued up. Did you want to say anything before we watched it? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
Cool.
Yeah,
This is a
sure.
very short.
Yeah,
This is a
100%.
very short clip, and we'll wrap up. So I'll give you the closing word after we talk about this. But this is kind of, it's not that hemp may stick around, but I think it will evolve, if you will. Here, let's watch this clip.
We're going to build the shit out of our hemp business, and we're going to invest in that, and we're going to go national, and frankly, that's going to be our priority, and we've got the infrastructure now to do it, because we've been prepping for this. And by the way, some of my biggest competitors that everybody loves are following our footsteps. They're out there hiring right now for hemp. This is what I want. This is the back door to legalization. D9 in cannabis and D9 in hemp is exactly the same cannabinoid. There is no difference. What I'm pushing for is for the Farm Bill to regulate D9 rather than hemp versus cannabis. If we can get that, and I think that we can get the farmers around that, because it's more business for them, then we've got a backdoor to legalizing cannabis, because they're going to legalize D9, and that means they've legalized THC, which means 280E goes away, which means we can do banking, which we can go public, we can do anything we want in NASDAQ. NASDAQ has said it, they'll allow hemp businesses. So we can do anything we want after that. It's a backdoor that nobody has been focused on, but it's the fastest route to legalization in the U.S.
Never looked at it that way.
We're going to launch with 6 seltzer flavors, and we're launching 2 energy drinks in the big cans. There's more coming down the pipelines. We got mocktails and other stuff. We're also launching with our full line of gummies. And the last thing we're going to launch is we're going to go with a cannabis pre-roll, but not now. That's coming next year. That's going to be super interesting. So a hemp pre-roll.
So that was the Dale's Report, a really good cannabis investor podcast. What do you think about that? Again,
interesting.
It's
You
been
know
great.
what? I think that it's going to be interesting. And I think that he's there's people with, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, is that I think it's going to go to the highest, the people with the most money are obviously are going to have the biggest chance of winning. Now, like you said, is it the MSOs? Okay, if they're getting into hemp, then like you said, it's not going away. But I think that they got there's a bigger fish out there that wants it stopped, and that's
Right.
pharma. Pharma will blow this guy out of the water. And will dwarf that industry, will dwarf whatever this guy can do. So, and if they decide to come down and say, what, we don't want, just like they don't want cannabis, they're not going to want this, because it replaces a lot of their products, honestly. Inflammation, a lot of their products. The stuff, the antidepressants are really like shooting fish in a barrel. They haven't figured that out yet, and you're taking it. It's just, that stuff just kind of deadens you. My wife is a nurse. And so this, I think that it replaces a lot of products, and that's why they don't want cannabis right now. And I think that they don't want to see what this guy is talking. They're not trying to hear that. And I think that they can really put the clamps down on what he's saying. But I think that he's on the right path. He's got to where he is because that's brilliant. That's a brilliant business strategy. And you have to do that if if you're going to rise up to that level of in business. You should be all over it, just like he is. So
Yeah, and
but I don't think he's going to win. Yeah.
I just want to say again that I think that my proposal would even address that, which my proposal is to establish ownership limits. I want to say again that, folks, if you want to read this, check it out in the show notes. I'm pretty sure I even mentioned what I actually meant to say earlier. I'm looking for it. I know somewhere I say GMP standards or something like that. And there it is. Good manufacturing process
There
practices.
it is. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm glad we figured that out before we got off air.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out the show notes, folks. Ted, I can send this your way. I'm really curious of what you think about this, because I think it addresses all the real problems. Like if we're worried about the kids, if we're worried about these products containing things that they shouldn't, synthetics. Like people have been making this conversation about synthetics. I don't think anybody, is being duped into buying chemical soup or whatever. Like I think consumers are a little bit smarter than we're giving them credit for.
Yeah.
Are there cases? Sure, maybe. But again, we can weed those bad actors out. Anyways, though, it's been a pleasure. I want to give you the closing word like I promised, and we'll close the show, man. What do you got to say to wrap?
Love you, Cole. Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. Just wanted to say that to let anybody listening, okay, in this industry, the transporters, the independent cannabis transporters are here. Okay, we're organizing, we're growing. Okay, and we're small businesses. We're the largest minority group. We're the largest social equity group. Okay, and we are developing a voice in this industry, and we're working with the industry. Okay, we're not out here rogue. We're working with the industry. We have good people that are working with us. Okay, like I mentioned before. Okay, it's time to make us a part of this process. Okay, it's time to make us part of this. I want to see JB succeed and win. Okay, this is a stain. This is a stain on the industry. You have to fix this. Okay, this bill is not going to fix it. All right, this is not going to give us. There's no equity going to the independent cannabis transporters in this bill. Okay, you have to fix this. We're not going away. We're lives are being crushed. We've lost retirements. People put their homes up. This is the most unfair thing that I've seen in business in my lifetime. Okay, at least that's in my purview. That I'm involved in. So this is a disaster, and lives are being hurt. And so it's time to listen to us. We have a voice, and we're not going away. We're growing. Okay. So, and I want to thank everybody that's been listening to us, that's been working with us. Like I said, in the industry, there's great people here like Scott. I can't wait to go back and watch those podcasts, and kudos to Kirsten and Aaron as well in Crew's office.
Yeah, kudos to them. They've always, they get back to me when I email them, which is not very. I don't email them very often, so maybe they're a fan of that because I'm sure other people have to email them more often. But anyways,
Yeah.
Shout out to people like Scott, Tom, and everybody.
Tom,
Again,
yeah,
this is all love.
yeah.
I really where I'm coming from with these proposals, I truly feel I'm coming from a good place, and I know that. I just hope that everybody else is too. That's the only worry I get with these proposals. It's like you wonder. But anyways, I wanted to give you this space, man. And again, you're welcome to come back on anytime, or if you got anybody else
Thank you,
that would
brother.
want to
I
come
love it.
on, that I can
Yeah.
give them space
Oh,
and a
I will.
voice.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's the point of this
100%.
show, is to have a long format conversation. And if people are still listening right now, you're a rock star, because you obviously value long format conversations. So kudos to you. Happy holidays, everybody. And Ted, again, dude, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna text you. All right.
Love you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. All right.
See you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode.